see. What was this? Remember those local rules Casey was fond of? Look at this. Here's 3.11b. Okay? 3.11b. What would this rule say? Could this get worse for our hero? A party initiating an oral deposition shall first attempt to communicate with opposing counsel to determine whether agreement can be reached as to date, time, place, and material to be furnished at the time of deposition. Any written notice of deposition shall state as follows. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Let's see, what did their written notice of deposition state? Do I have it here? Here's their written notice of deposition. Oh, wait a minute. What's that? What did super lawyer Casey Eric forget to do? Let's read this again. Any written notice of deposition shall state as follows. Shall is commanding language. Commanding language. This is, guys. Hello and welcome to Rekieta Talk. Tonight we'll be discussing the tragedy of the super lawyer. The tragedy of the super lawyer. The star of our program tonight is a Mr. Casey Eric, who's desperately trying to fight for his deposition notice to not be quashed. And we've just run into a big problem. In his argument, citing to the local rules of Tarrant County, Texas, and demanding attorney's fees, plaintiff states that defendant states, Mr. Casey Eric states that the plaintiffs are attempting to avoid a properly noticed deposition. But they overlooked one particular thing, and that's 311B. 311B. A party initiating an oral deposition shall first attempt to communicate with opposing counsel to determine whether agreement can be reached as to date, time, place, and material to be furnished at the time of deposition. We know that this didn't happen. How do we know that this didn't happen? Because Mr. Eric had a burden and a duty to provide that it did. Any written notice of deposition shall state as follows. A conference was held or attempted with the attorney for opposing party to agree on a date, time, place, and materials to be furnished. Agreement could not be reached or counsel will not respond, and the deposition is therefore being taken pursuant to this notice. Or agreement was reached and this notice complies with that agreement. Failure to hold such conference or to make adequate attempt to hold such conference prior to noticing a deposition shall be grounds to quash the deposition. I'm looking right here at the notice of intention to take oral deposition. That was provided by Mr. Casey Eric. That was provided by Mr. Casey Eric of Kessler Collins. And shockingly absent is a certificate of conference. Let's read that local rule's last line again. Failure to hold such conference or to make adequate attempt to hold such conference prior to noticing a deposition shall be grounds to quash the deposition. That means you lose. The court is obligated to quash the insufficiently noticed deposition. And since the basis of your attorney's fees claim is that you have a properly noticed deposition, let me just suggest that it certainly could not rise to the level of sanctions, and you will not be receiving attorney's fees when you can't follow the basic rules of court, Mr. Super Lawyer. If only the paid advertisement for Super Lawyer and $1 Million Litigators Club would buy you a free out of the rules of the court. But they don't. They don't do it. You freaking idiot. And you know what's funny? What's funny is that I think Ty could request attorney's fees for having to file a motion to quash an improperly noticed deposition. Oh my goodness gracious. Certainly, filing a motion that includes only unsupported conclusory allegations should give rise to sanctions, as the Texas Supreme Court stated in Masinga.